Hello and welcome to Sidequest. This is our weekly video game show here at Geekverse. I am your host, Dylan Muzzin. I have with me the undefeated Kirklin Patzer. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing very good. I like how you read that as the undefeated, even though it's actually the defeated.
Oh my
And
god. That's just how much I think of you. I think
I feel like
you're
I'm in
undefeated.
both veins though. I feel undefeated and yet defeated at the same time. Maybe I'll go into that once we get there. But no, I'm excited to be here. This has been. I feel like I messaged you sometime last week, and I'm just like, man, I can't wait to get on the side quest. I feel like I have so much to talk about, and it's kind of funny how that happens. Where sometimes I'll be like leading into. We record this on Mondays. So it's just like I'm leaning into that. I'm like, I have so much to talk about. I check the schedule. It's like, oh, I'm not even on until next week. of course. And then sometimes it's the opposite where it's like, oh, I'm on this week, but I haven't been playing anything. So kind of ebbs and flows that way. But no, I'm very excited to be here.
Now, I'm glad that it works out that way because, yeah, sometimes on side quests, it's even like day of or the day before, I'm like, there's no news. I haven't really been playing new things. There's no new game release. Like, I just kind of scramble to come up with something for the topic. But then there's weeks like this where it's great that you had a bunch of things you want to talk about. And my two most anticipated games of like this whole year came out the same day. So you're getting like best mood Dylan you can possibly have, where I'm just
Nice.
feasting on games that I have been just craving for so long at this point. So it's gonna be a fun episode. It's really just a games we've been playing episode. We're talking about the Plucky Squire. We're talking about UFO 50, and then Kirkland has some mystery. He always likes to leave it like a nice mystery game segment. So I don't know what he's going to talk about, but we'll have some other stuff in there. So yeah, we're just going to get right into it. We'll do some plugs later on, but I want to start with this one. So UFO 50 is a game that I swear was announced in like 2019 or something, and then it has just been waiting in the wings. And I think part of the reason for that is because it's a culmination of many different video game developers who were kind of just working on their own little things and kind of made it to one big collection. So I think that's why it took so long. Is because for a bit there, one of the developers on this game is the great Derek Yu, who I love so much, who is the creator of Spelunky. And obviously he had to go ahead and release Spelunky 2 and a billion updates for that game, all these patches and stuff. So he was obviously busy for a while, which delays the game. And then you factor them with multiple developers who are all doing their own thing. That kind of tends to happen. But for anyone who forgets what UFO 50 is, I've mentioned it a few times on SideQuest, but it is a game that I feel like has not been like had a trailer at a big showcase, and so it might be going under some people's radars. UFO 50 is a collection of 50 games, as I said, made by kind of like a little dream team of indie game developers there. And the kind of framing of it, the narrative overarching element, I guess you could say, is that they kind of frame it as like, this is in an alternate timeline. There was this company in the 80s called UFO Soft who made a bunch of games, like kind of in the NES, SNES era. But obviously in our timeline, those games never existed. So this is like a collection. And we're getting so many of these modern day collections. The Marvel vs. Capcom collection just came out. This is like a modern collection, but for a bunch of games that never actually existed. It's kind of just this imaginary world. And so, yeah, it's 50 games in one. There's no weird microtransactions. They're all unlocked from the beginning. You buy the game for $30. You get 50 games. Fucking have at her. Do whatever you want with this. This is your piece of, this is your game now. You can play it however you want. And I think that's one of my favorite things about it is there's just one, it's like, it's so cheap, man. Like if you enjoyed half of these games, then what is that? You're paying like 50 cents per game, like whatever it is.
Totally.
Like you're getting an insane value here. And so I've played a bunch of this game over the weekend, but I've also been split between Plucky Squire and playing a bunch more Elden Ring. So I've only played so much of it so far. But man, right off the bat, I fucking love this game. This is a weird one in terms of expectations because it's 50 games. So I'm like, okay, these games, they're going to be decent. They're going to be fun sort of games. But like these are not mini games or micro games. Like these are full-length games. They all have their own title card. They all have their own credit sequence. Some of them take hours and hours to beat.
Wow.
Some of them are a bit shorter. Some of them are like, one of them's like a 2D or 2D fighting game. So obviously you can do a bunch of battles or you can just play it once and, never play it again kind of thing. And so it's like, it's pretty expansive. And also like, okay, I knew Derek Yu was somewhat involved, but also there's a lot of games not developed by him. So it's like, I didn't really know what to expect going in. And that's why I'm just like blown away so far. And I've only played like maybe 12 of the games, and I've only beat one of them at this point in time. So it just goes to show like, man, I cannot wait to keep exploring this collection even more. As I mentioned, they're kind of set up as NES type games. That's in like the graphical fidelity of them. But also like a bit in the design ethos, but obviously 40 years have passed since those days, and developers have learned a lot of lessons. They're better at game design. They can learn from games from the past. And so I feel like even like the simplest games, which would like one of these games in here is pretty much just like if Ice Climbers was actually a fun game to play in the year 2024. And it's just that, but I've been addicted to it. And I've, gone back and played some Ice Climbers on Nintendo Switch Online. Like, that game fucking sucks. It's not fun to play. It's really bland. There's not a lot to it. And so it's like, yeah, I'd rather play just like a modern version of that. And there's quite a few of that in here. Like, there's one of these games that's just like, what if Splatoon was like kind of made on the NES? It feels kind of like that. It's a different art style and stuff. But I think also one thing that's, and I know I'm going all over the place, but it's hard to talk about this game in like a linear way because it is just such a mess. I think one thing that I'm really happy with about it, and I didn't really expect, is that it is very cohesive, even though, and once again, I haven't played all 50 games, so I'm only just speaking from my experience so far, but there's a lot of ways that's very cohesive. One is that it's like, all the developers here are making multiple games, they're working on each other's games, they're play testing each other's games. You might have Eric Cirque, who's a composer, did Splunky soundtrack. He's composing multiple games. So there's a lot of things that tie them together. They also use like a very specific color palette. So every game in here uses like the same, I forget if it's 16 or 32 colors. Like they went with that specific palette, and all games are bound to that, so it feels very cohesive in that way. And then there's even like continuity between games in here. Like some of the games are sequels to each other, but none of them are just like, okay, they just chopped up the game's levels and like doled it out as sequels. Like they're pretty much like the same general idea, like what's the core concept of the game, but it plays completely differently. And some of the sequels are made by different people too. So they're not really just, it's not like they're cheaping out on like the 50 games. Like you're getting 50 games in here, even though they don't need to. They could have cheaped out on 5-10 of them. Once again, maybe they have. I haven't played all the games yet, but they haven't so far. So I am just in love with it. You're getting roguelikes in here, you're getting platformers, you're getting puzzle games, you're getting racing games, fighting games. You're getting games that I don't even know what you would call the genre of. Like, there's just some freakish things in there. So it's just amazing. Like, everyone go buy this game. I'm sure you'll find some stuff in here that you're into. A lot of it has couch co-op stuff as well. Nice. So I would love to get this set up on our 24-hour stream and play some of these games together. Like, one of them is kind of like dodgeball, but like with hacky sacks instead. So like the physics are really wonky, and you can like bank hacky sacks off other hacky sacks and like clip into enemies and get special abilities. Like, it feels very like a Mario Tennis kind of thing in the energy there. So that's pretty cool as well. I think maybe if I did have one criticism of this game, it's that there isn't online multiplayer. It's only split screen. If we're really being specific with it, like, okay, the games at that time in the 80s were obviously limited to split screen multiplayer, but I think that that's something they should have maybe spring to have in here. I understand that can be very difficult when you're making 50 games, like to make that work with all these different games can be difficult. But it's something that would have been nice. Who knows? Maybe down the road. But I'm not holding out for it. So yeah, this game's just unreal. I think part of the joy for me is just exploring the catalog and deciding, well, what am I in a mood for? Do I want to play a puzzle game right now? Do I just want to turn my brain off and do some fun platforming? And so I might jump into a game and be like, this is not my mood right now. I'll come back to this one later. And that's why I've only played a handful of the games so far, is because so far that's been the case, where I jump into a game and maybe I'm confused at first and I play for a little bit, then I'm like, you know what, I'm going to go play this other game that I'm really enjoying. And then I'll like come back to it later and really discover what's interesting about it. None of these games have like tutorials either, so you're kind of just thrown in there. You can pause and see like the buttons, but like you're kind of just thrown in there. So some of them are obviously a little more straightforward than others in that way. But yeah, let me just highlight a few of my, I guess, favorite games in here, or some ones that I'm really enjoying so far. So the first one I jumped to, unsurprisingly, is this game called Pilot Quest, because the character of Pilot Quest is a guy named Pilot, who's a character from Spelunky 2. He's just one of the playable characters there. And then they've kind of made him like the mascot, like UFO soft. Like, he flies around in a UFO, and that's like the branding is largely based off him, and he appears in multiple games, which is just amazing, because that is also that has been forever my main character in Spelunky 2. So the fact that he's randomly like the protagonist of a bunch of other games is really fun for me. And I'm kind of breaking down like the lore of like, what does this mean? Like, do these games take place in the Spelunky universe? And like, I don't think they really thought about that stuff, but for me, it's just like a fun bonus. But yeah, Pilot Quest ended up being kind of the perfect game to play first, because Kirklin, have you ever played like an idle game or like a clicker game? Are you familiar with those games at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think It's funny. I'm pretty sure there's one called Idle Heroes and one called
Okay.
Clicker Heroes, and I've played
There you
one
go.
of, or if not both. But no, Clicker Heroes was a big one. I feel like around high school time, I had my
Yeah.
one friend. His like most played game on Steam is Clicker Heroes, just because he like sets it up so he never even has to interact with it. But yes, I am aware of those.
Yeah, like I remember playing one back in high school called Tiny Tower, which was like a
Oh,
great
nice.
phone game where you were just building this insane tower and adding like residential suites for people, and then you get different restaurants and like build an arcade. And literally all you do is like go on the game and like restock shelves by clicking on things, and then like it takes 8 hours in real time
Right.
for that thing to regenerate. So it's kind of that idea. And Pilot Quest is kind of that a little bit. At the start, it's kind of a clicker where you have your yo-yo and there's a little crystal, and you smash the crystal and crystals come out and you pick them up, and then eventually you like buy a seed that generates crystals over time. And I was like, that's kind of a weird idea, but I'm kind of into it. And then I think where it kind of clicked for me is that all that stuff happens while you're outside of Pilot Quest. So while you're playing other games in the collection, you're building up crystals in Pilot Quest. So when you come back to it, okay, shit, I have a ton of resources now. I can go do a few more things. And so that's one that I play Pilot Quest for 20 minutes. I go play other games for like a couple hours, come back to Pilot Quest, play for 20 minutes, and I keep coming back and forth. And I'm so curious to see what other kind of meta games there are in this collection. And that really just does happen to be the perfect game to pick up first in this collection, because I
Yeah.
can just start building up those things right away. So it just worked out perfectly in that way. But on top of that, building out your whole base and whatnot, you're going take out dungeons and exploring, and you're having to repair your ship and all that. So it's just a fun game on the side. But yeah, like the weird clicker element to it and the idle game element to it is like an interesting twist on it, but that makes it really interesting. Another one that is just so wild, I don't even know how I'd describe the genre of it. It's called Party House, and the objective of the game is just like pretty much to throw the perfect party. There's different scenarios, and so you're trying to build up both your popularity and your cash so that you can like buy things to make the party better and buy a bigger house, and then popularity so that you can get more and better and more interesting people at your party. And I just love the names of everything in here. Like you have essentially like opening a door and you're letting one person in, and then you can decide, okay, do I want to let another person in, because they could be a bad person or a good person, and then you decide when the party is over. Either you've filled out the house completely and you're good to go, or you're taking that risk door by door. And so every once in a while, like they're called wild buddies, and a wild buddy will enter your house, and they're just fucking rowdy. They're just trashing the place.
I know a
And if you
couple
get
of
too many
those.
wild buddies, the cops show up, and then you don't get any resources. So that's like the
That's
main thing is you're
hilarious.
trying to like, okay, I can't. If I'm risking if I open this door and there's a wild buddy there, then there's so many ways that it expands on that. Where one of the guests you can have is just a dog, and the dog will spot who the next person at the door is, so you can see, oh, it's a wild buddy, so I know I'm not gonna let them in. You can like get police officers in, or like security guards, and like kick out wild buddies. I love to. You can invite hippies to your party, and hippies will balance out the wild buddy. They kind of balance out the flow of the party. You can get like auctioneers and like DJs and dancers and like
Oh my
all this
gosh.
crazy stuff. And yeah, like so there's different scenarios, different win conditions, but for the most part, you're just trying to optimize the money variable of it with like the popularity. And I'm still trying to figure out. I haven't beat a run of it yet. But it's just like such a weird, funny idea. The art is hilarious. And I just love the naming convention of everyone. It's such a funny, weird little game in there that I never would have thought of. But it's also so simple. Like, not to brag or anything, I feel like I could program that game in like a month. Like, it's very
Yeah.
simple, but it's super fun. And I feel like that's just everything in here is so well designed. Even if it's just like the most basic of platformer, it's just super fun to play. And that's where I'm just like addicted to this game.
Totally.
Yeah,
Seems like
it's
a great
unreal.
resource for just like inspiration, even just
Yeah.
being a game developer, right? Because you're getting so much different games with different mechanics and different little interactions amongst themselves
Yeah.
in a game, that has 50. And as you already stated, like you're, 12 games into a
Yeah.
pack of 50? That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, that's just like as I mentioned with Ice Climbers, and that's the case for so many games when I go back and play them on NES, like Nintendo Switch Online. Like, man, these games do not hold up. They're not very fun.
Yeah.
A lot of them do typically ship with a manual back in the day, and if you don't have the manual, it makes the game like impossible to understand, of course. So that's like one level of disconnect there. But it's like even the original Mario Bros, I don't really like that game. The original couple Zelda games, they're not really for me. I don't really find them that enjoyable. And so I just think it's cool that like, okay, what it would be like to make a modern game that is using those limitations, but with modern sensibilities. And it's like, oh yeah, the result is that you get really, really fun games that are very simple because like you don't need much for a game to be a hoot.
Totally.
Another game that I really want to do shout out because I think you will particularly like this is a game called Mortal. And the basic idea, it's weird. It's a 2D platformer, kind of puzzle platformer. You're going from left to right, trying to just get to the exit. And as soon as I hopped in, the most striking thing to me was that I had 20 lives. I'm like, what kind of platformer gives you 20 lives? Is this game just incredibly difficult? What's going on here? But it's because with every time you die, another guy respawns down. And it's kind of contextualizes that. It's not you respawning. It's like different guys. Like you have 20
Right.
people overall. And it's very simple. You move back and forth, you jump, and then there's 3 abilities you have. One is you can turn into a rock, kind of like Kirby's down B in Smash. One is you can just self-destruct, so you blow up blocks and other things, but you die in the process.
Yeah.
And then the third one is you just like turn yourself into a fucking dart and fly horizontally across the stage, and you like stab into walls, and then you can like jump on that guy's body. So the idea, it's
But
kind of
he's
like
dead,
a
right? That's a
Pikmin-like
new
game
guy.
where you're
Yeah.
using each other's bodies. And like blowing up blocks with one guy so that the next guy can walk through.
That's
and
hilarious.
so it's kind of like that idea. But then the cool thing that ties it all together is there's like 10 levels in the game, so not too many. But the idea is you're trying to replay it and almost like golf, like get your score down. You're trying to get like really optimize your runs because once you go through that first level, 20 guys, if I burn, you can gain guys, you can lose guys, but let's say overall ended with 12 guys left at the end of the level. Now for level 2, I only have 12 guys. And
I
so
see.
that's where the freaking Sifu angle of it comes in. As you get further in, you're going back to earlier levels, optimizing the way you're playing, trying to decide, how can I get all these bonus lives and minimize the ones I'm losing, and then just execute until you have so many bonus guys for the later levels. And then the final boss, you just need fucking bodies everywhere. You got to just you can't gain any lives. You just got to sacrifice a ton of people. So that's kind of where the challenge comes in. So it's just like,
That's
man,
awesome.
borrowing that little piece from Sifu, it was like
Yeah.
totally changed everything about it into just this totally genius game. And I couldn't stop playing that game until I beat
Yeah.
it. I was like, I have so many other games in this collection to check out, but I'm beating the hell out of this game because I just love the idea. And there's a sequel to it in the collection.
Oh, nice.
So I can't even wait to go see how like it changes up that formula using that general idea. So yeah, that game is absolutely sick. And on top of that, to it, a layer I really like to it is whenever there's enemies all throughout the level, if they hit you, you die, so you just lose a guy. That's not ideal. But if you blow up and kill an enemy, every time you kill 3 enemies, you get a bonus life. So as you're going through this level, planning out your route, trying to optimize it, you're also looking at like, okay, how can I blow up these blocks and also maybe take out an enemy or two as well? And so just the speed run, like route planning of it is super
min-maxing your...
Yeah, it's so satisfying. So once again, super simple game. Like I think it took me 2 hours maybe to get that first complete. But then each game has like a gold rating when you like roll credits on it essentially. But then there's also, you can get a cherry in each one. So that's like a super difficult goal. So now I got to beat the game with like 75 people remaining. I don't even know how the hell I'm going to do that. I have to play perfect on like every level. So there's additional kind of tiers of challenge if you really want to get super deep in the weeds, which maybe I will over time. But right now I'm just going to kind of, share the load a little bit and check out a bunch of these different games.
That's awesome. What are you playing it on?
I'm playing it. It's only on Steam right now, actually.
Oh, okay.
So I imagine this game would be hard to port just because of how many different games are in here. Like I found a couple bugs in here, it makes sense. How are you going to playtest? Playtesting one game is hard. I can tell you that from making one simple game of Potion Problem. But making 50 all at once, where people could be doing things in different orders, playing games in different ways, like so I found a couple bugs, nothing like too crazy. But yeah, definitely that. This game's going to be an absolute hit on the Switch, though. It's going to be perfect for that.
Nice.
Like when it comes out, just in terms of like having it on the go and checking out these different games for different moments. And the couch co-op, I think, is going to be a great angle for the Switch. So I'm looking forward to that. Like this game, I'm definitely like Splunky 2. I own on every console imaginable. That's gonna be the same for this. I'm just gonna pick it up everywhere so I can check it out at all. And because you don't have to lock the things again, you're good to go right from scratch. You can just jump right in and play whatever games you most want to play in that moment.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I like that it takes the best parts of those old retro games. You buy and you get what you get. You don't have to fucking beat the game to unlock another level or something like that. You can kind of go wherever you want. And
Yeah.
I do like the idea of them keeping like the same color palette across the whole board to just unify the whole thing. And like I imagine the art style of different games is still very different, but the palette is still like
Yeah.
it makes it kind of feel it's like it's in the same realm. But yeah, no, that's awesome. Just looking at screenshots of some of the I like how different each of the games are, and I had no idea that it was going to be something like how you like they're kind of linked together with like your Spelunky chap popping
Yeah.
off and a couple different titles there. That's awesome.
Yeah, and then it's fun too. Like the collection, you can organize it in different ways. At the bottom, you can be like, I want to play a reflex type game. It'll narrow those down.
Oh, okay, that's
I want to
cool.
play a thinky game. It'll like narrow those ones down, which is fun. But by default, it's chronological, and the chronological element of it is like just totally manufactured by them, of course. But it starts with like the first game that came out in 1980, all the way up to like whatever it is, 1990, and so you can kind of see also this progression of like the graphics maybe get a little bit more complex, and obviously the sequels will like come out after each other, and then for each one there's like a little biography, which is kind of just like a fun fact about the game. But of course, once again, they're all kind of just like fabricated, like, oh, the character for this game was based on a character from this other game in this collection, but it's written from the perspective of like, I don't know, a little blurb you read in like an old video game magazine or something like that. So it's just, oh, the commitment to the collection angle of it and what that means for it, I think is such a great way to contextualize it rather than just like, yeah, here's 50 games. You know, like
Yeah.
they really went out of their way to tie it all together, and I'm sure that's why the game also took a lot longer to come out from that original announcement trailer. It's just like they really put a lot of effort into connecting everything in a meaningful way. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't really feel the need to like spoil too many of these games. I want people to check them out, and I know it just came out a few days ago, and it's a huge game, obviously, to like get through all of it. So I think I'll just leave it at those shout outs for now. But yeah, if anyone else picks it up, I'd love to let me know in the Discord. I'd love to talk about the games you've been playing, and just like Spelunky, tons of secrets seem to exist in here. And just from some chatter I've seen on like the subreddit and Discord and stuff, seems like there's some more going on here, just like hiding underneath the surface too. So that's pretty
Nice.
exciting in terms of the longevity of it. So yeah, there you go. There is UFO 50, an absolutely amazing game that everyone should pick up. I'm just gonna say it, everyone. I think everyone will find many games that they enjoy in here, not just
Yeah.
one. So it's absolutely worth the ticket there. So. Yeah, there you go. There is UFO 50. Kirklin, I know you have quite a few things, so I'll toss it to you. At some point, we got to work an ad break in here, so I'll let you kind of
Okay.
figure out how you want to meld that in here. But just take it away. Where do you want to start?
Sounds good. I want to mention two quick ones that you brought up on the podcast in the past. I didn't physically play these games, but I witnessed them through Shay. Shay picked up Minami Lane on
Yes,
the
beautiful
Switch.
game.
Yeah, I don't think it took her too long to get through it, but she absolutely adored it. It was totally the vibe of a game that she was looking for, and just from what I've seen, I remember you talking about it, so I had seen just clips from here and there, but yeah,
Having a
she was
chill
proud.
city builder, it's great. Those don't ever
Absolutely.
exist. So honestly,
And, like-
having a relaxing one is so enjoyable.
Oh, exactly, and like just great Switch game. You can just kind of chill back
Yeah.
on the Switch with the handheld. So yeah, she really enjoyed that one.
Nice.
And then she also picked up Unpacking because that was on the PlayStation collection, and I did like. I didn't do a whole level, but like when she would go in the kitchen or something, I would just start putting some things away. And man, what like a relaxing game, similar to like Minami Lane, but like totally just it's like doing like a coloring book or something
Yeah,
it's a way to
totally.
just kind of get your brain focused on something with some nice chill music. And she really enjoyed like just the progression of kind of following the person's life and kind of
So
witnessing
good.
their life through just their stuff that you're putting away. So yeah, she really enjoyed that one.
Man, how satisfying is like when you beat the level and it does like the quick fast forward of plunking down all the items with the sound effects.
yeah.
So, and like anytime you like fucked up and like have to move something around,
Yeah.
it shows all of that. It's so satisfying.
Does a little snapshot. It's like
Yeah.
very like ASMR-y, I
Yes.
find, with just like the little audio effects. But it was funny because she like was putting everything down, putting like the last things in, but then she forgot to like flip the pillow back. So like when it takes the snapshot, the pillow is just like folded over. It's like, fuck, it doesn't look good. But no, she really enjoyed those ones. I want to bring them up just because you brought them up in
Of course,
the
yeah,
past
nice.
there. And Actually, little asterisk with Unpacking. That was a part of the PlayStation Collection extras, whatever tiered it's at, and unfortunately, it was removed like the same time that Plucky Squire came out because I guess they just shuffle the
okay.
catalog around, kind of
Sure.
how like Netflix adds and takes off things. And she was so bummed because she got like 89% done, so she'll never be able to finish it off there. And I think it's like a $25 game. I'm like, I don't think you really need to buy that for for
I
how
think
much
she
you're
should.
almost done it.
I think she
Oh
should.
yeah, actually.
I don't know. I mean, if she got that enjoyment out of it, like, what's 20
Yeah.
bucks to you, but 20 bucks for an indie developer, you know, it means the world. And
Hey,
like, I
there
don't
you
know, the
go. Good
game,
point.
like, every level is great. So even if
Yeah.
she only has 1 or 2 more levels, I don't know.
Maybe
just
maybe
me,
in like a
but-
year if she like forgot how like just to play through it again on like a fresh little
Yes,
go around.
fair
Maybe she'll
enough,
do that. But yeah, those were the two that were played not by me, but still want to mention. What's some quick ones to mention? You mentioned Elden Ring. I also will mention Elden Ring here because
Ooh.
I hit a wall on my first character that I made. I don't know if I told you this, but I like made a new character. Did I tell you this? I told someone this. I can't remember if I told you on
think you-
Sidequest.
I think you might have, yeah.
Maybe. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this time around, I'm like going full on commitment to actually following like a guide. Not necessarily like how to get through the game, but just how to build a character. Because I feel
Right.
like my first character, I just really, I don't know, like jack of all trades type avenue, and not really like focusing my spec or like just focusing on like my weapon upgrades on like a specific weapon. Whereas now it's like, I don't know. I feel like I'm just gonna commit to a nice basic easy play style to just get through the game and learn the game properly. And what a more efficient way it's been. Even just like beating like a certain boss, for example, like the first guy, Hagrid, the whatever his name is. I feel like I freaking squeeze my head into the into that hole for like 4 hours the first time that I ever play that game. And this time around on this new character, of course, like I've beat him, so I kind of know his moveset. First try, and it was like
Hell
so fast. Like I just was like dodging all of his attacks and just like totally chopping him down. Right now I'm rocking the Zweihander, like the giant colossal sword, which
Hell
is just
that's
like
my
little
play style.
yeah,
too,
two-handed, big colossal sword. I have the Ash of War that changes my heavy attack into a charged attack, and then like the idea of the build is to just be like able to tank hits. So you focus on armor that has a lot of poise, so it doesn't it doesn't knock you when you're doing those charge attacks. And man, they hit so hard, especially now that I have like, I think I'm only at like +6 or something on my Zweihander, but like still that's like so much more than I had on the first character that I made, and I had so much more playtime on that character. But no, I'm just focusing on like I think I'm gonna do like the whole game if I can with that weapon, unless it gets like a better upgrade. But the guy that I saw at least just recommend like you can beat the whole game with that one
Nice. That's cool.
play style. And yeah, I'm having lots of fun with it. I think I'm still early on in the game just because I don't know. I think I have like 10 hours or 11 hours on this one character right now. But no, just having lots of fun. And it's interesting because I feel like because although I treaded a similar path that my first player did, I just found like different avenue. Like I feel like I thought I like discovered like a full area, and then you like go down a road and it's like, what the hell? There's like there's a what do they call it? Like a site of grace, whatever they're called.
Yeah.
Just like, what? There's more down here. Then you just kind of go down a rabbit hole and you like recover a whole area, or you get like a little map piece that just like opens up the whole map. Like, wait a minute, I had no idea this was down here.
And the amount of times that happens is always surprising. Every time.
Something I will say too, I feel like this time around, I'm utilizing Torrent so much more than I did on my first playthrough. And because I have this giant Zweihander colossal sword, like when I do my charge attack on the horse, she does this like drag type ability, and it just like you can just chop like 5 enemies in a row with it, and it's just so satisfying. Torrent is just fantastic, super
best
fluid with the movements.
I
agree with you now. I feel like the first time you brought it up, it's like I'd have to think about that, but definitely in comparison to like so many horses can feel so rigid, and like you don't feel free on on Torrent, but just kind of double jumping around like I'm a fucking gazelle in the Sahara.
Double jumps, it's great.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, I just actually beat, or I just got the last map piece on the DLC, and I only have one more of the mandatory bosses, and then I've like pinged like 3 or 4 other ones on the map that I fought and was just like, oh, fuck this. I'm not doing this guy right now. So I'm like close, but also this boss that I have to fight at this point is like insanely difficult. So Yeah, I think I think I'm at the point where I'm getting a little like I've done all the exploration, which is my favorite part about Elden Ring. So I don't think I'm going to worry about too much about some of these optional bosses, and I think I'm just going to try and really figure out a strategy for this final boss, and then roll credits on the DLC. And then when I have an itch, when I hankering for it, and come back and I have a little more content to do. But yeah, I'm getting down to the final hours of the DLC here. And
Nice.
I think my favorite part about the DLC is that the regular leveling up system, it's still in there, but there's like a different system specifically for the DLC, and that way that they could scale the difficulty of it based on like someone who's just beat the main game, someone who's done new game plus 27, whatever it is, they could scale the difficulty that way. And so because of that, when I'm leveling up like regularly through runes or souls, whatever they're called, I can just put my stats wherever I want now, and it's not really going to make a huge effect on like my ability to beat the game. So more, I'm like, I've put a bunch of stats into faith now, so I can try different weapons out. I've been putting some stats into things I normally wouldn't with my character's build, but I think the DLC is really good at letting you kind of do whatever you want on the stats side of things. Just change your stats so you can use the kind of weapons you're interested in using. And then, the actual difficulty and like percentages of how much damage you're doing is going to come from this secondary thing that's more based on exploration than it is leveling up anyway. So that's a nice thing for you to look forward to, in 2 years when you get to the DLC.
Yeah, I have the DLC. It came with the pack that I got, which which is awesome.
Nice, right on.
Yeah, it was just like the sale price. It was like it was cheaper than the full price game, regular priced for the game and the DLC. And the DLC at launch was quite expensive, right? It was like
$50, I think.
Yeah,
maybe,
so I'm like, this is a steal. I got to get on this, and then hopefully it'll motivate me to power through that game. But how do you know how many mandatory bosses there are? Just from like talking to people, or does it actually tell you like in the game?
I did Google it earlier because I was curious. I was fighting a couple of these guys. I'm like, oh my god, how many more of these? I remember reading when the DLC came out that there's only I won't say the number, but a specific number.
Okay.
And yeah, I was like, okay, I fought a few of these. I feel like this guy seems mandatory. He's kind of an annoying fight with an annoying mechanic. Do I have to actually beat this guy? And so I looked it up and I didn't. And that's when I saw that I only had one more to go. And I'm kind of surprised. One of them is like, it's this whole section of the map all on its own, really difficult, really climactic, really built up to this boss too. So I assumed that was going to be one of the mandatory ones, but it's not. I mean, even in the main game, there's a couple bosses that are like, it's surprising that that's not someone you have to beat to roll credits on the game, but it's just how big the game is. There's just total huge chunks of the game that are completely optional, which is wild.
Yeah, it's fun. I have one coworker that I think he's like similar place to me, like Soul's career as well as like where we are in Elden Ring. So it's kind of fun like comparing our experience stories, because it's like we're going through the game for the first time and somehow we haven't been like spoiled on how many bosses there are, like where you have to go. So we're just kind of like two what do they call the oh my gosh, I forget what we're even the
two traveling souls lost.
Sure,
in the desert.
let's say that. I was gonna say
Journey,
what
like
you're
two
called.
players of Journey, how they come across each other and help each other out.
I like that. I like that spin. I was gonna say what your character, the Tarnished. That's what we are. Two Tarnished on the Golden
Two
Road.
just depraved, venerable old Tarnished.
Exactly. We're just naked with our loincloths and our big clubs.
Oh yeah, dude. I've been whipping out the loincloth because the new hammer I found is so fucking heavy that if I want my fast roll, I have to be buck naked except for some like little cloth bracers. So I just have a little loincloth, couple cloth bracers, which the amount of defense they're giving me is probably not useful whatsoever. But then I do insane huge damage. So I'm really happy that awesome. Weapon required some of that faith leveling, and so I can finally use that, which is nice to see. But I just hit 100 hours in Elden Ring finally.
Oh wow, congratulations.
So, yeah. Which for some is like, puny. That's like barely any hours. But for me, I think it was like 70 hours on the main game, maybe 80. So it's been about 20, 30 with the DLC at this point.
Oh, wow. That's pretty good. To like beat the game, I feel like that's pretty good. I've just heard like some people, hundreds of hundreds of
everyone
hours.
I talked to, I guess I did it, I don't know, a little bit quicker for some reason. I don't know why.
I will say too, I am glad that I did make this new character, because although as I was saying, like I found like I was getting to a point that I was kind of just plateauing with my point distribution, and I was also just really like leaning heavily on like the magic and like the spirits and stuff like that. And now it's like, I'm just gonna go fucking Dark Souls 1 style, baby. Just you and your weapon, and just do it that way. So that's why like I am really glad that I'm just committing to the two-handed play style, because it's also like I want to try different play styles, but it's like I also just want to play the game and like not worry so much on like, is this a good weapon, and like looking at numbers and stats. And I know it is the type of game that like, you know, people recommend just exploring and like just doing whatever for your first playthrough, but it's also like I just want to focus on the game mechanics more so than what my character is actually like, point distribution and knowing where to like, because there is hard, or what are they, soft caps, hard caps, whatever it is, where like the points get diminishing returns if you like keep going in certain directions.
I don't even know anything about that.
Yeah.
Like, that sounds right, but I could not tell you what level or what rank that
sounds like you
happens
beat the
at.
game without that, so you know, kudos to you, sir.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not afraid to cheese though. I'm a mimic tier user, which I don't know if you've heard about that, but that's like just one of the summons that is just very strong, because they're pretty much like a little mini copy of you. So for me, I have my huge ass hammer, and then my mimic also has a huge ass hammer. And if I just go set in the corner, he'll do like at least a third of the boss's HP, you know, depending on scenario. So I just have to stay alive. But
awesome.
that, you know, that doesn't work across the board. Certain bosses are too strong, and then if they take him out, then I'm on my own, because you can only summon them once. So so I'm no, you know, I'll cheese when I need to, but I've definitely fought a few bosses.
Nice,
fair game as well.
That's awesome.
They're not fair sometimes. Their hitboxes are bullshit. So you know what? I'm gonna be bullshit too. I don't care.
Oh, that's amazing. Maybe I'll quickly mention this last thing before an ad break, if you want to go that route. Age of Mythology Retold. Now, have you ever played Age of Mythology before?
I have not.
Or Age of Empires? Like
I've barely. I think I've maybe touched Age of Empires.
Okay,
It's
Age of Empires 2
me.
probably.
Yeah, I remember
that was like the big one.
My friend Cody, I remember playing that one. But yeah, Age of Mythology. These trailers, I'm like, God damn, I want to play this game. And I'm currently lapsed on my Game Pass subscription, so I haven't picked it up yet or played it yet. But when I finally resubscribe to that, which might be in the next couple weeks for Starfield, I'm definitely gonna download that on my PC and play for a little bit at least.
Yeah, I think I can confidently say Age of Mythology, like the original, is my favorite RTS game of all time. The original Age of Empires was probably one of the earliest games I ever played. Like I remember my dad like showing me on the family computer like Age of Empires 1, and just like the little like audio cues or like the music that goes with the game. Like it's very nostalgic for me. Done a lot of LAN parties like in my house. We used to have multiple PCs, and like my dad would have his buddy, I would have like a buddy over, and we just like do like a big LAN battle. And that's like between Age of Mythology or Age of Empires 1. Like we played all of them. So yeah, I absolutely love Age of Mythology. When like the remaster, whatever this is like, I won't want to say a remaster. This is like a remake almost. Like it does look a lot more than just polished, like an enhanced edition. Like that was my thoughts going into it, and I remember getting excited about the Warcraft 3 remake, and that I don't know. I heard that one wasn't as great, like as to what they were promising. Like there's no custom games, and like the stuff that really people loved about that original game, they didn't quite make it, even though it looked really good. So I was kind of standoffish, and then of course a couple of my old buddies that I like playing RTS games with were like they're like, oh, are you gonna get it? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe. And then I looked at the trailer and I'm like, oh my god, this looks so freaking good.
Visuals are amazing on it. I love the colors look so good.
And they just even have like my buddies now like telling me of like they want to get it, and then like I know they have a lot better like online support than they did back in the day for it. So fuck it, I got it. I got the premium edition.
Nice.
I got the and so you get like another faction with the premium edition, and then also apparently they're coming out with DLCs, which is crazy because it's like a really old game. So clearly just shows their support for it.
Yeah.
I have not been able to play this game yet. I don't know what it is. It will not launch on my Steam. I have tried so many fixes that of course like the community is suggesting. It seems like there's quite a lot of people that they have the exact same issue. Some people like me that have not even got the chance to play it, and some people that were playing it and then they did an update and now the game just won't launch for them. Really, really, really bummed about it. I like Friday night. I was literally gonna play this till like 5 a.m. probably. Like Shay had an overnight shift. I'm like, I am not leaving my office.
Chug 2 Red Bulls.
I'm just gonna play Age of Mythology Retold. I am so hyped. My buddy, shouts out to Denzel. We were gonna be playing all night for it. He got to get in the game. His game worked. He played like 5.5 hours that night, and I just could not even launch the game. I've tried so many things. I was like,
now I know your PC is, on its fading breaths. Is that what's going on here, or is it some other glitch?
I like updated my drivers, I checked it like the minimum requirements, and like I'm all there. And I don't know, I felt like, I don't know, I was gonna refund the game like right away just because I was so mad. Like Saturday morning, I'm like, I didn't get to play. Denzel played all night. This is fucking bullshit. This is my favorite game. And then I don't know. A lot of people were kind of reporting the same thing. So a lot of people are just like, I'm waiting for them to patch this. Hopefully they fix it. So I am gonna wait a little bit longer to see if they do patch it. I haven't seen anything posted from like them specifically about it. And then I don't know, my weekend just got caught busy with other things, so I haven't really been able to look into it too deeply. I might try a couple other things, but like I've uninstalled the game, reinstalled the game, like verified like all the files, and as I said, like redid all my drivers and stuff. But I was so bummed about that, and yeah, I still have not played it. It says 1 minute played because I clicked on it in Steam, and it shows that it's launching, and then it just goes back to nothing, and really really unfortunate. I was really looking forward to that, so. Hopefully I can tell you about it, in the near future, how
when
great
you do,
it is.
Let me know, because I would love to. I'm gonna definitely I don't have, when I get Game Pass again, I would definitely love to play that with you and talk about it on Sidequest. So when you've got it figured out, let me know and I'll download it and we can hopefully play it together. And I think 100%. It should run on my laptop. But you know what? It's weird about that, because they've been doing a ton of these. Like they did remaster, like modern versions, right, for all of the old Age of Empires games. They did Age of Empires 4. I imagine it's the same team that's working on this. Yeah. So I would have thought like they would have been just crushing these remakes, working in this engine, getting all this stuff. So maybe I'm making assumptions there, but that seems like a very, very weird issue that is popping up there. And obviously it's not just you. And if you're meeting the minimum requirements, then either they fucked up with the minimum requirements or there's like a game-breaking bug, which is like, I don't know how they let that through the door. Didn't do enough testing, I guess, but hopefully it gets resolved soon.
100%. Yeah. So I'm definitely gonna let you know, because I'm like holding out faith that I'm just gonna be able to randomly boot this game up, because really really excited for it. And yeah, I mean, if you get it, we could do like a big online match. Definitely coordinate, because I have at least, Patreon Tyler. He's a big Age of Mythology guy. As I mentioned, Denzel. Yeah, yeah. I know my dad would get this in a heartbeat too when I tell him about it. So
that would be sick.
Yeah.
What is players you can have in one match?
I think, on the old game, I think it was 12.
Oh, hell yeah. Okay. Yeah. I would assume it's like a 4-person thing. That's sick.
So that was how we would play like LAN parties. You could do up to 12. Okay. I imagine it's the same for online games. I don't know if they have like a different online support system, but lots of games. And that's where you just do like one of the biggest maps, and you just get that fucking amazing soundtrack going when you're playing like the Vikings or something. Oh, it's so great. You got god powers, so you choose. I'm just gonna go off a quick rant here. You got the you got the Egyptian gods, you have the Norse gods, you have the Greek gods, and then in the DLC, which now is of course in all the games, they have the Titans. So it's just it's such a great game, and I was obsessed with it. I was the story is fantastic, but like really just the game itself is so great. It's definitely up there. I mean, I said it's my favorite RTS game. If I had to make like a little tier, like Warcraft 3 would be in there for sure as one of my favorite RTS games of all time. But yeah, I would say Age of Mythology, just for like the nostalgia of it, and those big LAN parties we'd have back in the day. Just great times. Just staying up till 7 a.m. Like literally, like you just do like one massive game, and it's been like 5 hours, and it's just so fun.
That's amazing. Well, let's take a break here, a little break here to tell you that Patreon. Have you ever heard about Patreon? This is a website you can go to. You can subscribe to Geek First Podcast. It helps us out a lot, and it gives you a lot of benefits. You get episodes early, you get episodes ad free, and you get a lot of exclusive episodes as well. You also get to join us on After 9, which is a show where we talk with you, the patrons, about all sorts of random stuff. Sometimes we do watch-alongs with movies. We just talk about the recent movies that have been coming out, all sorts of random stuff. We're doing it on this weekend, in fact, on Saturday. So it's a great time to jump into Patreon and join us for that discussion. I think time is TBD, but it's all that information is posted.
I thought it was Sunday, but we'll go over that.
It oh, yeah, you're right.
Sunday morning.
We moved to Sunday morning, actually at 9 a.m. So all that is not TBD. It is D. It is.
We just determined.
It is D.
Yeah. We just D'd that right there.
It just shows my my memory skills these days is withering away. But no, that's good to know. So many things on the feed right now. We're wrapping up Rings of Power within a couple weeks. Penguin's getting going. Agatha's on the move. So we got all sorts of TV shows. And then it's just been in a barrage of regular news for movie news, TV news. So we're doing newscasts as well. We got Joker coming out in a little bit, so another review drop in there. Just all sorts of stuff. It's going to be a great time. Also, at the start of November, we have our 24-hour stream coming up, so get geared up for that. It's going to be a good time. And what else? Join the Discord. As I mentioned, it's a great place to hang out, chat about all sorts of things. You can leave a review to help the show grow in the algorithm. Leave a comment on YouTube. Let us know what's going on. Any other shout-outs, Kirklin, or does that sound about all?
That sounds about all. It's crazy. Just we're like nearing a month away from our 24-hour stream. It's fast approaching. It's gonna be a fun time. Gotta mentally and physically prepare for that adventure. In my old age, they get more and more challenging.
I do feel like in even just the last couple months, my ability to stay up late has greatly diminished for no foreseeable reason. So I was honestly thinking about this the other day. I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do it this year. I feel like for the last 2 or 3 years, I've been popping off hard. I will stay up. I don't get a wink of sleep. I'll take the shifts that no one wants to do. I'm in it. But I do, for some reason, I'm feeling this year that my sustainability is going to be weaker. So we'll see how that goes. But it should be a good time. But we're going to throw to a quick ad break here. Kirklin's going to try and boot up Age of Mythology once more. We'll be right back. All right, we are back. Kirklin, did it work? Age of Mythology?
It's still not working.
Still not working. Okay, maybe next week, maybe another week on the podcast. Before we get to Plucky Squire, Kirklin, I think you have some more games.
I got some more juice
to shout out. So yeah, rifle it off. Where are we going next?
I'll keep squeezing this juice out of the orange. Where do we want to go? I'm gonna actually, I'll talk about a little update on Ratchet and Clank. Almost said Wild Apart. Rift Apart. I think last time I was on here, I told you I was about halfway through the game, and I felt like I was halfway through the game, and I was worried just because I was enjoying it so much. And I've since beat it. I've rolled credits on it, and not only that, I got the platinum on this game.
Damn.
I feel like I beat this game in no more than 3 sessions. I could not put the controller down. I was actually so hooked. My total playtime after getting the platinum was 15 hours. So I think if you didn't do any of the extra stuff, probably 11 hours is the total story, which
that's a pretty quick platinum, even for Insomniac games.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I was I was kind of conscious of what I needed to do though, en route. I feel like if I didn't do that, there would be a lot of backtracking I had to do. So I kind of did myself a service there. There was 2 trophies at the end that I actually had to grind for, and I was so pissed about because they were just really stupid that you have to I had to look up guides for. I was just so mad. I didn't want to do it, and especially when you're okay, I'm almost done the game. I'm gonna get the platinum. And you're what? I have to do that? Are you kidding me? So, but no. Absolutely 10 out of 10 game. It is so good. It's definitely one of my favorite action adventures that I've played through in the last handful of years, and it just felt so well polished. It was such a beautiful game, really fun to play through. Really loved all the characters. They had some really good just really good personalities amongst the characters. I like the boss at the end. I just really loved it across the whole board. So I'm definitely going to be keep my eyes on this franchise going forward because they knocked us out of the park. I even saw in the PlayStation catalog they have pretty much all of the Ratchet and Clank games on there. So I might be tempted to boot up one of those old classics. And I think when I was on there, I was telling you, I played I think it was the 3rd game or the 2nd game, and they have that one on there, and it's oh man, just that nostalgia trip is gonna be great. But yeah, really really fun game that I highly recommend to anyone that has. I think it's only on PS5. It might be on PS4, but if you're a PS5 owner, definitely check that out. If you're getting the $700 upgrade, definitely. I don't know if they're upgrading that game, but I'm sure it'll run nice and smooth on there because just really fun adventure. So. Nice. Shouts out Ratchet and Clank, and it's nice. Beat another game, in the last year. Great. That's nice. Another one that Shay and I have been absolutely obsessed with. That I actually had to push this podcast back 15 minutes because we could not stop playing this. Cult of the Lamb, Dylan Muss. We jumped back in there. Hadn't played it in a while because I don't know. I just for a reason the first time I played it. went really hard, and then I put it down. I played a little bit after that, but like not so much more. And then Shay played like a little bit here and there, and then I remembered that they had the 2-player version of it now. I don't know if it's like a different title. It's just, I don't know.
There's
the free
been a DLC or two, like separate DLC named
Yeah.
packs, right?
Yeah, so this is another PlayStation Collection game that they had on there. So fortunately, I didn't have to pay any extra for it on that system because I originally had it on the Switch and then playing it on PlayStation now. And yeah, it seems like it has the whole DLC in there with Goat. That's the other character, which I absolutely love. Shay plays the lamb, and I get to play as the Goat character.
Nice.
He's just so fantastic. And this game, it's I mean, you played it. We did a whole episode on it. It's definitely like you got to keep on your task and always doing stuff. It feels like a perfect 2-player couch co-op game though, because I feel like there is so much to be managing on like the cult aspect, and Shay's doing farming. I'm bringing dissenters into the prison and like just sacrifice. Like you're just always doing stuff, and the crusades feel a lot more manageable like with 2 people on it. They do scale the difficulty, so like depending on how many people are playing, I don't know if there's more enemies or if they hit harder. There is a difficulty scaling on that regard, but yeah, we've been absolutely hooked with this game. We are obsessed with it. I'm enjoying it so much more than I did the first time, just because we are playing it together, and the combat gets really intense and it's like nitty and gritty. There was one where she was down, I had like half a heart left, and I ended up clutching it out. So definitely channels that Elden Ring vibe. It's a lot easier than that, but still, it scratches that itch. And yeah, I feel like the first time I played Cult of the Lamb as well, because it was on Switch, I mostly played handheld. So it just feels a lot better with like a larger controller and, of course, on the big screen. And it's just, yeah, it's so fantastic. So I am getting this second breath of enjoyment with it. And it's fantastic. Yeah, we were thinking like, I don't know how much more we'll play after we beat all like the main bosses in it, because there is like end game content where you kind of do like endless crusade runs. But like, and like, I guess you could keep just upgrading your cult, your farm, whatever you want to call it. But unfortunately, we do have experience with some bugs. There's one recurring one which is so annoying. Every once in a while, and by every once in a while, it seems like recently, almost every run at the end of a crusade, it just like will endless load back to our cult, so we can't go from like like as soon as you finish the crusade, you get all your stuff that you collected and whatnot. It'll just endless load screen. Fortunately, it does save everything that you got on the crusade.
Okay.
But it's just like, okay, close the game, load it back up, go back in, then I have to add her, and then we, like just that whole process is super annoying, and it seems like it's happening more often than not on the crusades as of late, which is really unfortunate, because you just do like a really long crusade, finally got it out, and it's like, oh yeah, right, endless load screen, gotta close this. And there's been many times where it's like, hey, we're done for the night, I don't want to fucking deal with this again. So it's like annoying in that sense. There's some like I guess you would call it a bug. Like sometimes when you like interact with something, it'll just like freeze and you like wait a second, then it comes back on. So
I remember. I feel like that happened when I was even late in the game. I remember the frame rate dropping quite a bit once like my camp was pretty big as well. Yeah,
so that's definitely happened here and there, which is unfortunate. But like across the board, everything else we've been really enjoying. And I don't know, it felt like I was like drowning the first time I was playing the game, because I was just always trying to keep up with what I had to do in the camp. And now that there's 2 of us, we can kind of deviate.
Someone to shovel poop and someone to tuck in people in the bed,
Yeah, exactly. But it is really satisfying once you kind of get everything managed, and then you start getting like a self-sufficient cult, all that stuff. So yeah, we've been grinding that nonstop, really, like since like that's probably took up a lot of my Plucky Squire time, honestly. She was off all weekend, so then we were just going super hard on that co-op. So it's been really fun.
Yeah, I kind of forgot that they did add the co-op at some point, and I do remember that my least favorite part of the game was the crusades in general, so that sounds like a nice way around that, where they just sound a little more engaging in the 2-player modes. That's a good thing. But it's weird, like a game like that, and then Sea of Stars as well, like getting like that co-op update. It's like it's just it seems like a strange choice to put co-op in a game like that, but like, why not? Why not just give players who are going to be into that another opportunity to play? And for someone like you who maybe, got like halfway through a game, it's a good way to like incentivize that second wind. Yeah. Is there any other things that you can notice that are like specifically things that were added from the DLC? Because I don't know if the updates are more things that would come after you beat the main game, or if it was stuff that was kind of just infused into the rest of the gameplay loop of it.
Yeah, like I think there's new, like, you remember like the tarot cards, like those upgrade. Like I think they added more of those. It's like when you're on a run, you would meet the guy, and then you would pick between 2 tarot cards, and then it would basically give you like an upgrade for that run.
Right.
I believe they added more of those, as well as like new NPC characters that you run across that kind of like give you different upgrades and
that
just
sounds good.
things
So
like
just
that.
like some nice improvements to Crusades in general.
Yeah, exactly. And then more followers. I can't, because do you remember like Knucklebones, like those little mini games that they had? Like instead of going on Crusades, you'd go to like different areas, and then like one of them is you play Knucklebones. There's like a fishing area. Like there's just different things you can go do.
I remember the fishing area. Oh yeah, I just googled Knucklebones.
Yeah.
Apparently they made a physical version, which is
funny.
is pretty cool. But yeah, I remember. I totally forgot about that kind of overworld stuff. But
Yeah,
you're right. There was a few areas you can explore.
Yeah, so I think they might have added like a new area like that to go to. We've completely disregarded those. We just don't go do any of those little other areas. We're just kind of focused on doing the Crusades and then just kind of upgrading the camp. But yeah, so I can't really speak too much of like the difference there. Plus, like it had been a while since I played the main game, so I couldn't really remember everything that was vanilla to what was added. But yeah, no, really having a lot of fun with it, and definitely recommend, if you got 2 control. We went out and got a second controller now. I got a nice purple PS5 remote now.
Nice.
Because I, would always borrow Patreon Tyler's, and then randomly he's like, oh, I want my controller back. Fair enough, I guess. But now we got our own, so we can jump in the couch co-op there. And we just kind of wanted to play more couch co-op games together on the PlayStation. And now that like the catalog's on there, like we were thinking about booting up Terraria. Never played that game before, but that's another co-op one on there. So we were just kind of looking through the category there. And man, you brought up Sea of Stars. That was one that got taken off the catalog along with Unpacking. So I'm so sad. I was looking at it on my homepage, and then now it's just like locked. It's like, oh man, I do still want to get in there at some point, but yeah, I think it'll be a little bit longer now. But
yeah, that's not one you'd want to start on like another platform. You'd definitely want to continue from your save, I imagine, because I do have the Switch version, but like you'd probably want to continue that PlayStation save, I imagine.
Yeah, it's I feel like it's a type of game that's like, if I lost all my progress, it would like, man, I need some time before I jump back in there just to like retread the same path. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was invested in
pretty linear game, yeah. So redoing that stuff would not be super enjoyable. So that's too bad. And that one's also like it's fairly expensive as far as indie games go. So like repurchasing that, even knowing that you didn't beat it in the first place, is kind of a tough pill to swallow. So that's too bad.
Yeah, 100%. And then my last game I will mention here, probably new if you listen to, other podcasts or whatnot that I'm talking to Travis with. I've been getting into football lately. Okay. And I haven't played like a Madden game in like a very long time or anything like that, but this game I picked up, College Football 25. It's by like the creators of like Madden, but it is so fun to play because it's a lot more arcadey than like a regular Madden game is. And I've been a little addicted as of late. This has kind of been another addiction of mine. I think I've logged since I've got it, which was, I don't know, before the football season. I'm like at 100 hours now on this game. Like I have been going so hard in the Dynasty mode, and it's been great, especially just because like football season started. This is my first season I'm really following.
See you later, Warhammer 3. Kirklin's got a new favorite.
We got a new favorite. There's a PS5 pick, so of course my system can actually run it. Unlike Age of Mythology, apparently. But no, yeah, I like, especially just because football started. We have like a fantasy draft going on the go join the GV Discord. We got a good little NFL channel that we follow there, and I've just been like totally taken in that headspace. So pairing it with playing some college football, it's been lots of fun and very frustrating, of course, when your team loses and whatnot. But I'll probably bring it up on the 24-hour stream just to at least play Travis.
I would love to watch you guys. I do not want to play, but I want to watch you guys and maybe throw some commentary in there with Taylor. Watch you guys play.
I've never beaten Travis in a Madden game before, and I still don't really like my challenges, but like 100 hours on college football, like it's different than Madden games, right? Because Madden's like the pros, where this is college, so it's a little bit different. And as I said, like,
is there a third football game? Because could we do where you guys do college football?
Yeah, there's Blitz,
NFL, and then like
there's NFL
tiebreaker.
Without NFL Blitz would be the game.
Blitz is where you're like breaking each other's ankles and that kind of thing, right? Yeah.
There's probably like NFL Street. You know, they have like FIFA Street.
I wish there was a
I'm pretty-
Mario football.
pretty
That's like
sure-
one of the ones they haven't done.
Yeah, they should add that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like they've. I don't know what system it's on, whether it's like 360 that era or maybe even earlier, but they definitely
Yeah.
have like a
I remember those
Madden
Blitz games, yeah.
street game, which would be lots of fun. So yeah, maybe we'll have to do a little gauntlet there, and hopefully I
fun.
don't just get aced, because like I said, I've never beaten Travis, so we'll see what
But
happens.
yeah, I mean, dude, now you've been doing your stretches, you're tying your shoes, like this is your chance to beat him.
I'm going for it. Exactly. I'll give him a really bad school that I have to play him against. But yeah, no, it's been fun and great game. Highly recommend. The word on the street that apparently Madden has not been a good game for a very long time, and this was like a nice little breath of fresh air for the football arcade enjoyers.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It probably lets them experiment a bit more. Whereas with Madden,
Yeah.
there's probably like a need to just like do the basics of getting all the new players and
Yeah.
I don't know, just that basic stuff, focused on like really good graphical fidelity and whatnot. So they probably
Totally.
just take less time to actually be creative with it when they probably also don't need to, because even if it hasn't been good in a while, I still think it's selling super well every time, right?
Yeah. No, it's
Classic.
it's like all those sports games that people will just get it no matter what every single year. Like I'm sure there's a lot of people that only have bought FIFA on whatever the system they have. You know, they just buy it every single year. And yeah, no, but I think there is something special about this game, that it's like it can reel in, you know, not just those same fans that are buying them every year. And especially because it had been of like, I don't know, like I feel like the last Madden game I played was like on PS3, maybe 4, but like, man, this just looks so good in comparison. Like, of course, on like the PS5 with all the nice, like on my nice TV that I got. So yeah, it's been good. But my time has mostly been Cult of Lamb, like the last little bit here with some Plucky Squire, but definitely like the last couple weeks. I feel like every week, like there hasn't been a week where I haven't just like booted up at least one game and gone in there. And I feel like some of those hours might be skewed because maybe I'm in like the dynasty mode and then I, like, go away, make lunch or something, kind of forget about it. But yeah,
That's still awesome. Okay, cool. Let's take our last break here, quick break, and we'll be back to talk about the Plucky Squire. Okay, we are back. The Plucky Squire, I think, is a game that was one of the most anticipated indie games for the last couple of years here. It's a new team, I believe, but one of the main guys on it was like the art director on Pokemon for like years and years and years, which makes sense.
That's
why
crazy.
why this game has like a very definitive art style, and that's why it's something that stands out about it. If you forget what this is kind of the starts as like a top-down Zelda-like experience. You're playing a character in a storybook, and then at some point you pop out of the book into a 3D realm on this child's desk in his bedroom, and then you're exploring in a 3D world, going back into the book, back into 3D, kind of back and forth. That's kind of the general idea with it. Kirklin, you mentioned you've been stretched in between these other games. Do you know what chapter you're on, or an hour count roughly of how much you've played so far?
I'm a couple hours in. I don't like not much more than that. I don't remember what chapter, but I don't minor spoiler, I guess. I'm out of the book. So I experienced like that area and like got some of those new mechanics that are kind of introduced through there. So yeah, unfortunately I missed the chapter count, but I don't know, maybe like how far are you? I just want to see in comparison.
I
or have you like
beat the
it?
game.
Oh, okay,
like,
there you go.
a half an hour before we started recording.
Oh,
So I just
very
this
nice.
afternoon I
Congratulations.
went ham and tried to get through the rest of it. I didn't know if I would. I looked up like how many chapters there were, and thankfully the last chapter is like pretty much like an epilogue. Like it takes like 5 seconds. So it's like I was able to just barely clutch it out, and that took me 8 hours to beat the game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm probably like a quarter of the way, I would
Okay.
imagine, through it with my, because like I said, like I would imagine I'm no more than like 2 or so hours in, but yeah, no, it's been this was definitely I think my most anticipated from whatever it was that we were covering that we saw it on there. It's just very, very unique art style, but mostly the gameplay element I thought was like the biggest surprising aspect to it, and to actually get my hands on the controller and like in this world, it is like so much better than I actually thought it was going to be, especially just with how the world and your character interacts with the world around them. Like I think just the idea of what the mechanics were was enough to rope me in, but once I actually got in there, this game and the story really, like, especially the characters, they totally remind me of Adventure Time. I don't know if you've ever seen that show.
Yeah,
But just like Finn the human, it just totally reminds me of Jot, and like some of his little like compatriots, or like the evil wizard totally reminds me of the Ice King. So there's just so many
Yeah,
parallels. Like Princess Bubblegum is very similar to like the princess in this, that it's like it, I think so. Yeah, I just I love that show. So like jumping into this is right at the gates. I'm like, man, this is just gonna be such a great time. And I feel like, yeah, especially like once you get knocked out of like the book for the first time, where it's just like, oh my god, this is like, this game is just something so special. And I highly recommend, like, I'm quarter of the way through, I think, but like I highly recommend everybody jumps in this. I mean, you could probably speak more to it than me, but like the first boss battle that you do, I don't want to like spoil too much for some people in here, but just like such a
Very
unique way to tackle it. And minor spoiler, there's a turn-based battle that you do that was just, man, that was so fantastic. So yeah, I really
Is that the one
am
at the
enjoying
top of a tower in particular that you're talking about?
It's in a card that you do.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh man, like that's just fantastic. Like that's good stuff.
Really cool. Yeah, so I rolled credits on it, as I said, just before starting here. It took me 8 hours. I am super duper mixed on this game.
Ooh,
overall,
interesting.
Kirklin, where at first, of course, the aesthetic of this game, fucking top notch. The artwork in the book, and the way that the book actually looks like a book, like there's a crease in the middle of the page, the text box that pop up, and like maybe will be cut on that crease in the page, like that art is amazing. Like that top-down Zelda art. When you get into 3D world, it's not like the highest fidelity thing, whatever, but it looks really cute, looks really good. It looks a lot like Link's Awakening type art style.
Right.
And then I think what surprised me so much is like how many other art styles are also mixed in there, where you'll have a certain 2D section with like this totally different art style from any of the other stuff. You mentioned that one with a certain card battle at the top of a tower, which was amazing. Yeah. And then there's other things, like in the trailer, there's a scene where you're like shooting a gun on like a mug, and you're doing like a 3D kind of going around this mug. And like that moment in the game is really cool, and like has a totally distinct art style to it. And there's multiple moments like that where the art style is like they're just crafting something completely new for this. And they're obviously like hearkening to stuff. Like I think the Adventure Time reference is like really on point. And I feel like there's a lot of that where it's like, okay, I can see what they're kind of referencing here, and like they totally pull it off while it's still unique, and like the character designs are unique and all that. So aesthetically, and even the music is really great too. Some sequences where there's a stealth sequence you're doing with like this amazing like kind of jazz, like almost like in improvisational thing that's really, really cool. So the music, aesthetically, I'm coughing because it
takes
so
your
good.
breath away.
Yeah, it takes your breath away. Aesthetically, 10 out of 10. Like one of the most cohesive, I'd say, like visual and like auditory, like cohesive games I've ever played, honestly. Super top notch in that way. And then I think where the mixed part of it comes is that like for the first few hours, like I feel like the trailers kind of spoiled some of the better moments of the game. And so, I pop out of the book for the first time. It was cool, but I was also like, okay, I knew that was coming. And so like how are we going to mix up that formula? And I feel like that's maybe where the disconnect comes from me, where like the best parts in this game are almost all 2D sections where you're in that Zelda sequence, and then there's like some interesting mix up on the gameplay. There's a lot of cool mini games in here. There's like a rhythm game one. There's one that's like not like Tetris, but it's kind of like I forget the name of the game that it's like, but it's kind of like a weird little Tetris block breaking thing. That's cool. That stealth section I mentioned is interesting. There's a lot of fun little mini games there. But I think the biggest disappointment for me is the 3D sections are really disappointing. Like the exploration of it's not very fun. You never really have any ways that it mixes it up. So it's like pretty much the same, and like the sequences you're doing, the more interesting stuff is all from that 2D section. And I never felt like that got any better or more interesting. This might be a minor spoiler, I guess, but yes and no. Is like you never leave like the desk in the 3D world. Like I was hoping you'd explore the kid's room or house or more interesting areas. Like a lot of other, like I love the aesthetic of being a little dude in a regular sized world. Like I love Grounded. I loved Tinykin is great. Pikmin, of course. These games.
Ratatouille, great game.
Ratatouille. I love that aesthetic, and I think all those ones that I just mentioned in recent times have like such diverse areas, and it's really fun. I never feel like that happened in the 3D elements of this game. And then I also like, the game is very linear. There's these puzzles. You get a lot of these puzzles in the game that are like word puzzles where there's a sentence written in the book in a storybook sort of way. You chop out one of the words and then you find another sentence. You chop out another word like the strong wall is in your way. And then you go find the word broken and you put it. And then the broken wall is in your way. And you can break the wall. You go through it. And that happens. But then like that kind of exact same puzzle happens so many times. And it's like, it's kind of cool a couple of times, but it feels a lot of the same. And I just feel like in general with how like something like that, I think there's a lot of potential of like, ooh, what kind of weird combos can I make if I mix these words in like all these crazy ways? But I found there was even certain sentences where I'm like, oh, this should work. This is a logical sentence. But since it wasn't like the one linear way to solve this puzzle, it didn't actually work. It didn't change the world in the way I was expecting it to. And that was disappointing when it happened. And so I honestly just like through the first 5-6 hours of the game, that's how I was feeling. I was just feeling like pretty lukewarm on the game. There was a couple cool moments, but for the most part, I just wasn't that engaged by it. The combat's, totally fine, but nothing that crazy. And so that's just kind of how it was. I'd play for an hour, and I was like, I'm kind of bored. I'm going to go play Elden Ring for a bit, go play UFO 50 for a bit. And that was kind of what was happening. But then, Kirklin, the last like 20% of the game is fucking amazing. It's the best part of the game by far. There's some crazy stuff that happens narratively. Visually, the game takes a whole like another turn, and then like it actually gets a lot harder. The game's very easy for the most part, but the ending section actually has some tricky stuff, combat-wise, puzzle-wise. Really cool level design, really awesome, like just totally nailed, stuck the landing in that sense. Like the whole ending sequence is just unreal. So that's where I'm really mixed, because like coming into this review a couple hours ago before I'd finished the game and I hadn't gone through that section yet, I was like, man, I hate that I'm gonna have to say that like I just don't like this game. It's not for me, and I don't even know if I'm gonna finish it. But I'm so glad I spent that extra couple hours with it and got through that ending sequence, because it really made it worth it. It was so freaking good. So, that's where the mix comes from. There's a lot of really high highs in this, but also a lot of like mostly just mid, like not a ton of low lows, but just some mid sequences. I also had quite a few bugs in here. Also, the frame rate is dog shit in the 3D environments. Like most of the time, it drops to like at least 30 or less. So you had that experience too on PlayStation?
Yeah,
the 3D
I did.
sections?
Yeah, I agree with you. I feel like the novelty of the 3D world, like it definitely, like even for me being like that early into the game, I feel like it's like it still looks nice for like the limited use of it, but like because it is so limited, it's just like it feels like a path to get through more so than like something that you're really experiencing in, because
there's like not much you can interact with, and that's what's maybe a bit disappointing. There's a lot of like invisible walls and stuff too, so it just doesn't feel like you can explore. And like the book is so small and like specific that you can kind of explore every inch of it, and there's maybe hidden things to find. I never really found that in the 3D sections.
Yeah, I agree with you. I also agree with you in the sense of I was expecting to be able to explore more of the 3D world, but it does feel very contained, more so than kind of what I was expecting there. And like my favorite part about the 3D world, I like other than like the first time it happens, just because I love that like the way that the wizard just sends you, it just casts you out into the like away from the book. Like I just love that element of it. But just kind of like the little drawings that you find, and then you kind of just are able to like enter like just them and then bounce kind of in and out. Like it, but again,
like,
it's mostly
like
just
a sticky note, and then they'll like get you like jump up a couple ledges, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so like stuff like that. And like to your point, like the best parts about the 3D world is when you're interacting with the 2D elements or like jumping back into them. So yeah, it definitely, like, especially thinking about how excited I was for that aspect of the game, definitely disappointed. But I mean, just knowing that the ending is that peak, I'm a lot more motivated to get through some of the sections now, because although like I feel like because I am so early in the game, like it still does feel really fresh. Difficulty, like it feels almost non-existent. There's like 2 difficulty levels that you choose. There's like adventure mode, which is easy, and then whatever I chose, and then I still feel like it's gonna be pretty hard to lose. Like
there's pretty much easy or easier. Like those are your 2 difficulty options.
Yeah, 100%. So because I do like the puzzles, but it still feels like there's not really anything in here that makes me like, oh man, like I am excited to experience this game again. Like it just feels like once I'm done with it, I probably won't ever go back to it. But even though as a one-time go through, like I am enjoying it, but just finding like that one word to swap out in the sentence, it's cute and fun like when it first happens, but just keep going through that. It gets a little bit monotonous. So I definitely see that even already with how early I am.
Yeah, I think for me, like the strongest puzzle games or some of the strongest puzzle games are ones where it's just really fun to try out different ideas to try and solve the puzzle. And obviously, like Portal is like the greatest example of that. Where that's a very different kind of game than this is naturally. But just in general, like puzzle games where it's like, ooh, what could the solution be? Maybe it's like this thing or that thing, and like being able to test out those things quickly and find out what it is and try out weird different combinations is part of the fun. Whereas in this, as I mentioned, since like it is a linear thing and you can't really get creative with it, it's just like you just have to find out what the game wants from you. It like they're not really all that engaging, which is too bad. And that kind of happens like through the whole game. I think at the very end there's a couple sequences that work a bit better, but I also feel like some of the controls sometimes are just a little sluggish or just a little janky to even do what you're trying to do. Like at one point you like get the ability to like tilt the book, and that will like things will like drop down in the book, and like it's just a little finicky and a little janky, like no matter what. I even had a couple bugs where it like froze my game when I was doing that, and I had to like reload a save, which it auto saves like almost all the time, so I never really lost any progress in that way. But I also just felt like in general, like there is a sluggishness to it. It's going to sound like minor problems, but it adds up over the course of the game, where it's like even just like how long it takes for the page to flip to the next page. Like I wish that was twice as quick. Like whenever you like defeat the enemies in a room and like the door unlocks, it goes down. I wish that was twice as quick. Like there's just a lot of ways that it's a little bit sluggish. And then whenever you're jumping from the 2D to 3D world, those are like set points on the map, right? Like somewhere in the book, there's a little squiggle, and that's where you can jump in and out. But a lot of the sections in the game, it's like there's really no like it's just feels like it makes the game take longer that I have to walk over to this specific spot to jump out, even though like in the 3D world there's no obstacles stopping you to get around the book. So I don't know, I wish that maybe there was a section, maybe second half of the game, where you could just kind of freely jump out of the book. And I know that would maybe make it a little bit harder to solve some of these puzzles, but I think that could have just, if that was a quicker thing and it was a bit more free, I think it could have made the game have a lot more of like fast-paced movement and would have been cooler. I understand that's not really what they were going for here, but I just found like this game's 8 hours. That's pretty short as far as games go. I think it would have been just way better if they shaved 2 hours off of it. Like making things a little bit quicker, and then cutting out like the more boring sequences or the sequences where you're just kind of doing the same thing over again. I think would have just made it like a way more well-rounded experience for me personally. But it's a pretty short game, and a lot of people complain that games are too short if they are. So I know that's like a hard thing for developers to want to make their games super duper short, especially like what's the price tag on this, like $50 or something like that, I think. So as far as an indie game goes, it's like kind of up there.
Yeah, for sure. One thing that like I was hoping when I first saw it, and especially now that we're going through all these couch co-op adventures, Shay and I do wish this game was couch co-op compatible, and I don't see why it really can't be. Like I get it, Jot is your protagonist, but you have other compatriots with you. Like even limit like what they can do in the 3D world, but allow them to do something. Like I don't know. It just seems with how much they're kind of with you, let someone else kind of control them.
Yeah.
And, like your ice troll guy, like he's got a weapon. Like it just seems like it could work in that sense. So but like they are really cute and unique little characters too, just their own little personalities. His friend, the little witch in training. I just do really like the characters, and as I mentioned, like it already reminded me of a lot of the characters I love from Adventure Time. So it's a cute game. So I wish I could enjoy it with my cute little lady, but unfortunately not. Hope she's listening.
Cute things, that's for sure.
Yeah.
What do you think about the combat in this game? It's pretty basic, like top-down Zelda stuff. It's actually very
definitely
similar, like Cult
Zelda.
of the Lamb, similar to like Tunic. It's kind of got that ilk to it. But what do you think of it?
Cult of the Lamb, I will defend that combat system. I feel like I like it a lot more now that we've been going hard, especially using different
I'm just saying
weapons.
it's similar. I'm saying it's similar to this.
I get it.
Better. I don't know. It's been
Definitely
a
good comparison to Legend of Zelda. I remember playing, I don't know, the first or second Zelda game a handful of years ago. I had it on the 3DS. And man, what a dog shit game that is. No, I apologize to any Zelda hardcores out there, but like, man, the new Zeldas, like the old ones have
Zelda
nothing
combat
on the
is
old.
shit. I mean,
it's so terrible.
Let's not lie to ourselves here, okay? Let's be honest.
I am not a fan of that combat, and that's kind of what this one is. Like, it's very, very basic. At least you have a roll and like a jump somersault thing that you get.
The roll feels good. That's very
yeah.
quick.
Yeah, for sure. Like you have a little iframe in there, which is always appreciated in a game like that. But I do like how you can kind of get upgrades too. Like you get like a sword throw ability that you can kind
The
of.
sword throw is great. That's
Yeah.
my favorite part because it's just the God of War thing where like your sword will stick into walls and then you
Yeah.
recall it like Mjolnir. So it's
Yeah.
and then when you upgrade it, it like will do damage like each like as it's spinning to
Oh
enemies.
shit.
So you can just like grind them up. It
Fuck yeah.
feels really good. So that was definitely my favorite upgrade.
The meat grinder, I like it.
Yes.
So yeah, I definitely wouldn't put it as my favorite part of the game by any means. Like I still think the presentation is my favorite and like the actual characters themselves. Just again, Adventure Time comparison there, but yeah, combat it's nothing to really. That's like games that we were just talking about, like combat as in depth as like Elden Ring, for example. Like you play that and then you go to this, it's feels like you throw it in like a little cousin's hands or something, and,
Yes, definitely.
and they'd be fine even on the action difficulty, whatever the hell it is.
Yeah, no, I historically on Sidequest, like I don't like these kind of combat systems. I don't like this. I don't think it's particularly engaging. I do like the sword throw, but that's kind of where it ends. I think for me though, like it's at least passable here because none of the combat sequences are that hard. Like I don't think I ever died in actual combat in this game. I really only died if I like fell off a ledge or like ran into a laser beam that like insta kills you, like those kind of things, which are meant to be kind of quick deaths that revive you right away. But like yeah, the combat and even like all the boss fights in the game are like different mini games. None of them are like using this actual combat system. And a couple exceptions. There's a couple like maybe harder sequences, but even those aren't too bad. But for the most part, like most enemies in this game, even without the like sword upgrade, will go down in like 3 hits, which is perfect. It's super quick. There's no like lock on. Like it's pretty basic. It's pretty simple. And so I think that's for me, it works enough. Like if I replayed the game, I would probably just go on story difficulty just to get through it even quicker. But that's something I even like in Tunic. As much as I love Tunic, at some point I just turned on the God mode because I didn't want to mess around with the combat anymore. I just wanted to like do the fun exploring stuff. I didn't really care for the, combat. That's not really that interesting. So kind of the same case here. But yeah, it was fine. It was good enough. Kirkland, I won't spoil it, but there is a Lord of the Rings reference featuring a paper towel. That's all I'll say as my
nice.
spoiler free hint at what it could be. That I really enjoyed. I thought it was like a very fun, tasteful reference that was it fit for the world as well.
Nice. I'm excited.
So that was good. Yeah. And I don't know what else there is to say. Like the story, it's weird. It's kind of cut in 2 halves where like the setup of the game is that like the Plucky Squire is a children's book and you're playing through the children's book. And then at some point the villain realizes he's in a book and wants to change it. So then, he goes about going into the 3D world, changing things, that sort of stuff. And like the storybook that they start with, like that's intentionally very generic, right? It's supposed to be like that's kind of what the story is telling with it, and then it's supposed to get a little bit more interesting when like the guy is changing things. I don't think it's great. It's not great. It's not terrible. It's just like a totally fine story. Even like when we get to that section that I really like at the end of the game, there's some cool like kind of meta narrative stuff going on, I guess I would say, but like even like the actual plot line and stories like very basic. It's evil guy trying to take over the world and you have to stop him, and it never really gets anything beyond that with a couple like small sort of exceptions to it. So yeah, I don't know. It was totally fine. I think the dialogue sometimes it was really funny, but I think maybe another big complaint I have with this game is like it's way too talky, and it's like not super quick to skip text. You can't just like skip cutscene. Like you have to
That's
mash
annoying.
through it all. And it got to a point in the second half of the game where I was just mashing through, and then sometimes I would mash through so quickly that like I didn't see my hint to the puzzle, so then I was like, no idea what to do here. So obviously that's a bit of a me problem, but I think in general, what I said there, like the page flipping takes too long, doors unlocking takes too long. And also just like I feel like 90% of the rooms you enter before you can even walk, your character slowly walks over an area, talks to someone in a cutscene format, and then it takes a couple seconds to get out of that cutscene, and then you're playing again. And so in general, like it just, oh my god, it's a little slow. So for a game that's telling like what is a very generic story, it's like, okay, I feel like I wish we could have slimmed out some of that a little bit. And that's where I think maybe a little bit more interesting stuff in the 3D world and a little bit less of like the 2D storybook, like rip out 20, 30 pages out of the storybook. I would have been much happier with that as a balance of it. But I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but I don't know. What are you thinking of the story, or I guess just world in general from your quarter of the way through the game experience?
I feel like the magic of everything together like is like up, like it's bringing the story higher up. But like I feel like just for what I've gotten already, like I really wasn't expecting any big plot twist. So I am kind of
Yeah.
surprised about you talking about like the ending like that. So I am really intrigued as kind of what happens to tie a bow on this story. But um yeah, like even just like you have like a bad wizard,
Mm-hmm.
and then you got the hero of the story, and like that's just kind of how you're progressing. So Adventure Time by no means has any like in-depth like crazy plot twists on the villains or anything like that. So I was kind of just expecting more of the same in that regard. I was very surprised about like the first wizard that's like your friend in the beginning of the story.
Yes,
He's big,
Moonbeard.
Moonbeard, big DJ, and then
Very
he's like,
goofy character. Yeah, I think I
yeah.
was not expecting that tone for this game, but then it goes there
Yeah.
pretty quick. So yeah.
And like Mini Beard,
Mhm.
it's just like that, like humor just really gets me. It's again, it reminds me of Adventure Time a little bit. So, like that. But yeah, for overall story, I think I was like again, even just like having like your little like little witch friend or the ice troll dude. Like I was expecting maybe more of like a story element around them, because it's just like three really unique individuals if you include Jot. So maybe I was expecting a little bit more like world building on that side of it, of like kind of more of their history or how they kind of fit in the world. But it doesn't seem like we're really focused on that. But I don't know, we'll see. I'm only a quarter of the way through.
Yeah.
Maybe something happens.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely spend, I don't know, you go to like their home areas at different
Okay.
points, so you get to spend a little bit more with like their family members, I guess. So yeah, there's a little bit for those main characters, and then even a couple other ones, different points in the game. So
Nice.
yeah, you get a little bit of that stuff for sure. Trying to think what else. I would love to see Jot as a Smash Bros fighter, or maybe in like Rivals, which is like a platform fighter that has like Ori and Shovel Knight and like some indie characters. I think it'd be cool to see what like the 2D to 3D mechanic would look like, but also just with like the different the sword throw, like you get a gun at some point, a bow and arrow, and like all these other
big arms.
Yeah, the big arms mode, which I love. That feels like a very Adventure Timey sort of thing. Like
Yeah.
I think there's some room there for a really fun moveset, and then like obviously the character is just so cute and has a great art style and color palette, so that would be really fun as well. So I'd love to see that sometime.
Hell yeah, I'm down for that.
Mm-hmm. Any other thoughts on the Plucky Squire? Do you think you're gonna see it through to the end?
Definitely.
Okay, cool.
I apologize. I was a little preoccupied with Cult of the Lamb this last
No
weekend.
problem.
I wish I was a little bit further ahead, but Shay's got a work schedule coming up, so I'll plug in my Plucky Squire. Put my college football team to the side. I feel like it's also like I've been going maybe too hard on college football. Like I'm burnt out on it. Like it's.
Yeah.
There's no like actually copyright music in it, so it's all drum lines, like as if it's like a college like band, right?
Yeah.
And I swear I like dream about like the drums, like the snares and like
You're
the
having
drum
the Tetris
lines.
effect, but with the college football drum lines.
Just like yeah, like that's just constantly going in my head now. I'm like, I need a break from this, but yeah, no, I definitely I was already going like I felt like. Especially coming into it, doesn't seem like a game's gonna be 100 hours. I didn't really get that vibe from it. So knowing it's around the 8-hour mark, I'm already a quarter of the way through, and just your little spiel about how nice the ending is definitely puts fire under me. I imagine next time I'm on Sidequest, I'll be done it and kind of get my 2 takes.
We'll do a little mini spoiler section on
right on.
The more interesting tidbits.
Hopefully Age of Mythology is fucking working by then.
Yes, I would love to make that a 2-for-1 episode for sure to talk about both those things. So, yeah, Kirklin, that was a fun discussion. Really fun discussions today. A lot of great games on the palette there. So thank you for joining me. Thank you everyone for listening. Next week, I mean, the day this episode is dropping, apparently there's a state of play happening, so we'll definitely be talking about that next week, assuming it has some good juice in there. And who knows what else we'll talk about. You just have to stay tuned to the feeds to check it out. And Kirklin, you're going to have to end the feed here because I'm not able to. But thank you, everyone, for listening, and we will see you again next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.